to meet you next month and run around San Diego.
Okay, we're recording, and I'm just gonna start transmitting so people can start joining. All right. So, okay, people
We got 8,
joining right now. Yes, we have
53.
53. That's cool.
Hi, guys.
All right.
Say
Hello,
hello
everyone.
and let us know where you're from. Hi, Vikrant from Ireland. Oh, and Jasmine from India. We got Simon from Germany.
Hey, it's
Hi,
Jennifer here
Jennifer.
too. So, one thing here, you can tell more of your friends because we upgraded our account to 500 people now, so more people can join. So
And we have room
before
for
we're only like 100, and that's very, yeah, we just increased the size. So if you have friends wants to join, or like your parents, your
tell your
girlfriend, your
mom.
boyfriend, just tell them. Yeah.
Hi, Akshay. Hi, Amar.
All right, so we're gonna start in like 1 minute to give people the chance to just remember that you have a chat here, but you have the Q&A section too. If you want to just drop questions for us to see them and maybe answer them. Okay, Bulgaria,
Yep.
Ukraine, that's
Ukraine.
cool.
Romania.
Romania, hello Romania. All right. Okay, so I think we're good to go.
Right.
And so hello guys. We're very happy to have you here. So a lot of people joining right now. So just keep joining. And this this is a very special event we created for you. Sadly, Randy was not able to join us today. He was doing some work stuff, so but he says hello. And
Senses love.
the goal for this session, yeah, the goal for this session is to talk about SQL or SQL or how you call it. And the plan here is to be able to show you how we use SQL in our lives. I mean, as data scientists, of course, it's not going to be like an extensive overview of what SQL or a super comprehensive overview of SQL for data science, because this is coming from the experience of two guys. There's a lot of people doing different stuff, but we try our best to just cover the basics for you. So we're gonna start just talking about a little bit about what SQL, why do we use SQL for data science, and then we have some demos prepared for you, and I really hope you can just share your comments on them and be able to see them and learn from them. Okay, so Kristen, hello.
Hey.
All right,
We also
so
wanted.
maybe you can kick it off.
You want me to kick it off? All right. We also wanted to let you know that we will be using the results of the poll that we sent out 2 weeks ago to choose topics for the following webinars. So to get right into SQL and what it is and how I use it. So basically every company that I've worked at has had a database where the data lives. So if I want to build a model or I want to try and get any type of analytics insights, I have to connect to the database. And I can either write SQL queries inside SQL, or I can set up a connection for R or Python, which I'll be showing today as part of my demo. But basically, any business question that comes along, the first place that I am going to go is to the database to get my data. And so there'll be a ton of tables in there. These tables are all going to have a primary key that is unique so that I'm able to join from, let's say, the, number of, let's say I have people's like names and emails in one table, and I want their names and emails and how much they've spent, but invoicing is in a different table. I join from one table to the other so that I can get my data. And then I'm going to need to filter that a lot of times on different things. So a lot of times we only want customers who came in through a certain channel that are in the US, or maybe they're in different countries. But so I'd create a where statement in SQL to make sure that I'm taking into consideration all the exclusions that I need for my analysis, which can also include, the dates when people signed up, or, where people who haven't canceled, or anything that would restrict my population. So that's sort of how I'm using it. It's a little bit about SQL itself. Fabio, do you want to add some more color to that?
Yeah. So on a more high level perspective, you have to think of SQL as language to talk to data. Is what you will do a lot. I mean, you can use Python and R and Scala or Java, whatever, but almost all of the libraries you will be using, they're based on how SQL was created. And SQL is a very simple language to start using. And there are some keywords you need to understand to use the language. I mean, it's not like a programming language like Python or R. You can think of it as just like an interface between a human and data. I mean, you will not be creating like a machine learning algorithm with SQL. I think you can do that, and there's blogs about it, but that's not the way we do it. And for starting to know SQL and to start to understand SQL, you need to practice a lot, because you can read a lot of stuff on or watch videos of people using SQL, but until you're there where the data is just in front of you, and you group a group count, or find a difference between two dates, or do something with anything, that's where you're going to learn a lot, because every data set is different. So you need to understand that every data set will going to have different properties, different different ways to join data sets. You're going to be having a lot of columns and variables. And uh, for you as a data scientist, it's very important to understand that you will be accessing something like SQL, and you will be using something like SQL a long time. I mean, it's it can be the thing we use the most in data science, because of course we do machine learning or deep learning, whatever, but if you don't have a good data set, and you have no idea how to go to database and download a data set or just select something from it, it's going to be very hard for you to start doing something. So another thing here is that we got a lot of comments on the NoSQL. What about NoSQL? What about like MongoDB and stuff? And from my perspective, that's a very important part of data science right now too. But I think a lot of people were like 5 years ago saying SQL is gonna die and it's the moment of NoSQL or whatever. Well, we have not seen that. I mean, from my experiences in my jobs and the jobs of my friends, we're all using SQL still. I mean, we have SQL and everything, but right now, for big organizations and for like normal startups and stuff, SQL is important.
Fabio, your connection's a little shaky.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. So one question here, Kristen. So you're coming from a statistics and math first sequel.
Oh, I missed half the question.
Oh, sorry. So you're coming from a math and statistics background. What was your first encounter and when did you use it?
Okay, so I think I heard it this time. I'm coming from a math and stats background. When did I first encounter SQL? So for me, it was my second job in industry in 2012. And, you know, I actually learned SQL on the job. They had people come in and teach a bunch of us how to use SQL so that we could access the database. And at this job, I was doing, you know, health insurance claims data. And so a lot of it was, you know, these large health insurance companies would send us a bunch of files of data and we'd upload them into the database so that we could join them and then clean them and do analysis. And then I moved more, you know, throughout my career, I moved more towards really dealing with a company's internal data. So being able to go and look at, you know, what were the email communications that we've sent them, and did they get a sales call, and, you know, how long have they been with us? You know, all the data that the company has internally. And so the queries got much more complex to be able to do all those joins that weren't necessarily always straightforward. And sometimes you also find errors with the data in the database, and you know, or there's like missing rows because for some reason they didn't collect data on a certain day. And so you have to find ways of dealing with that. But so, yeah, so I've been writing in SQL since about 2012, and I use it basically every day now in one form or another.
Okay. So can you guys hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So I have some kind of a lag. I understand now. Okay. So one of the things, I mean, I'm gonna tell you my story with SQL is that when I was studying computer engineering, I had some classes on databases, and back then I used to think of SQL as something that only like databases administrators use, or like I shouldn't have to worry about that because we were only going to use Python or anything to create software. But then when I started doing data science and when I started to learn machine learning, all of that, I discovered the importance of SQL, because back then this is like 2013, 14. uh, I I mean, when if you really want to do something, a lot of the stuff you were doing back then, you were doing that with SQL. I mean, you have these amazing R and Python packages, but they weren't they didn't have, I mean, we didn't have all these types of libraries or packages to interact with SQL at that time. So normally you will be seeing a lot of companies will have something like MySQL or Postgres or something like that, and then you can do your analysis there, and when you're finished, then you can pass to Python and R or anything. But in I think in that period of time, I discovered a lot of amazing libraries and packages uh, that made very easy for me the pass to just using Python or R to use SQL. And I think Kristen's gonna show you something about that. and it's what we normally do. I mean, we are able to use SQL inside of a SQL platform like MySQL or Postgres, but it's much easier if you're going to be using Python or R in the end to create a model or something like that, to just retrieve or get those SQL queries as a data frame or as a text or as a file inside of your computer that you can just read from your file. So, and also one important here too is that if you think about it, if you want to do, I mean, the only drawback I can think of SQL is that it's not distributed, and it's not distributed because you're gonna be able, I mean, it scales very good, and you're gonna be able to read millions of 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 lines of data with SQL without using like distributing computations, but there's limits there, and that's why we have like Hadoop and Spark now, and that's gonna be the second part of the demo. I'm gonna turn off my video because maybe that will be easier. All right. Okay. So. Uh, I'm gonna show you in the second part of the demo on how to use Spark to write your SQL code and distribute that inside your cluster. But the main goal here is that in the end, it's SQL we will be using. And if you don't understand SQL, it doesn't matter if you're an expert in Python or Pandas or R or PySpark, because you're going to be missing a big chunk of information for data science. And you're going to be able to understand the basics and some and more little stuff about SQL for you to be able to run all of these commands. Okay, so Kristen, I have a quick question for you. What do you think was the hardest part for you to learn when you were learning SQL? Like the hardest part that you didn't understand in the beginning, and what's this or what's that?
You know, it's been so long now that it's hard to tell, and you know, I don't want anyone on the line to think that like SQL is this massive thing that's going to be difficult for them to learn. Like, to learn, you know, your select statements and your where clauses and your having and your joins, like it's all pretty intuitive and straightforward once you get it. And you can Google for documentation for anything that you want to do. And you know, it's a really intuitive language. So certainly don't let anything stop you from going and learning it. And don't think of it as like this huge mountain. It's just, you know, you need to keep taking steps every day to get towards your goal. Sorry, I'm just watching the chat going back and forth. So Fabio, are we ready to get into the demos?
Yes.
Okay.
So the first demo will be from Kristen,
Okay.
and then the second demo will be from me.
Okay.
Please
Awesome.
let us know if you can see Kristen screen.
Yeah. All right. So
You,
the first thing that I'm going to show is, this is just what my SQL looks. Can everyone see? Fabio, can you see this?
yeah, I can see it.
Okay. So this is just a simple query. You can see that I have all these databases over here. They all have tons of tables in them. This is my work database, so I'm not going to go too far into this, but here I'm writing a query where I want the count of people who are of a specific gender by month. And like I was talking about, we have all these exclusions here. But so basically that's writing a query in SQL. What I really wanted to show today is, you know, the fact that I have a SQL connection set up. And so you can Google how to do this, and it'll take you through the steps of setting up a connection on your computer. But once I have that, I'm able to download the RODBC library. And if I install that, I mean, I've actually already got it. Oh, so it wasn't. Okay, so I could have just clicked that box, or I can run this. And I set up my connection. And then here's where I put my SQL query. And I can run that, and that's grabbing from the same table that was in my Netezza, which is the flavor of SQL that I use. And so now R is thinking, because it's pulling in the data from the database. Let's see if we can just do. Oh, okay. So, and for this gender package that I was using, I needed to create a vector. It was just the wrong data type. But if we look now, I've got all the names that I just pulled in from the database. Okay, and so I can also do this same thing. Is this the right one? Yeah, so if we go over to Jupyter, it's the same deal. So it's not the same package because I'm using Netezza SQL, which is an IBM version of SQL, and there's tons of versions of SQL, and it doesn't really matter which one you learn because you'll be able to easily learn the next one. Like there'll just be like simple differences in syntax that are just a Google search away. So when you see a job description and it says something different than the SQL variant that you learned, like don't let that trip you up at all. Just still apply to that job. But basically we had to create our own package to allow us to connect because there wasn't one for Netezza. However, most versions of SQL, you'll be able to use the PyODBC library. But so this is the same, right? I, run this, and then I create a select statement using the syntax that I'm supposed to use, and I can run it. So right now it's grabbing the data from, it's querying the database, and I'm asking for the top 6 rows, and as soon as it's done running, it's going to show me my data. See, and so there's my data, and I can write really like way more complex queries and put that in Python as well, and that'll run and be fine. Typically, what I do is write my SQL queries in SQL first, and then I copy and paste them into R or Python. And the reason why that makes sense is because the errors that I'm going to get when I'm writing SQL in, Netezza are going to be really self-explanatory. They're going to be like, you tried to do a group by, but you forgot one of the things up in the top. Rather than if I'm running it in R or Python, it's just going to not work, and I'm not going to get that feedback of the error message that's like really intuitive so that I can go back and fix it. Yeah, so that Python that I was just using was Jupyter Lab.
Yeah, there are some questions regarding your demo, so maybe
Yeah.
you answer them right now. So one of the question was is what is belief and n rows equals false from the R version. Do you remember? You have
Yeah,
when you
I don't
connected
even
to
remember.
your database.
I mean, I can Google it
All
real
right. Okay. The second question is how you get that UI on Python. I think I
Oh,
can get
that's
that.
just
So
the
that's
theme.
Jupyter Lab.
So this is Jupyter
Yep.
Lab. If you go to settings, you can go to theme and choose dark or light. So I'm not sure. I just went over to show, but
Yeah.
okay, so if you guys can see my screen again, if I go over to settings and Jupyter Lab theme, I can just choose dark or light, and then it'll become light. So it's just the theme.
Yeah, that's important if you don't want to go blind.
Were there any other questions?
I don't know. I think we're okay with this. So I'm gonna be starting showing. Oh, okay. So I'm gonna be starting showing my screen, and we're gonna talk there about GitHub. Just let me know if you can see my screen.
Yep, we can see you, Fabio.
All right. So I think I read a question about if this code was on GitHub and everything. So we just created a data science lab account, and it's actually an organization where we're gonna be putting our codes and information there. I believe that Kristen code will be there in a few hours or tomorrow, so you can review parts of what she showed you here. Uh, and this will be if we do a webinar with code, it will be here, so you can access it and copy it, clone the repo or wherever. So this is the repo for this webinar. It's called Real Life SQL. Right now, it only has my code and a picture. That's it. And okay, so if you go to my code here, maybe just access this right now. It's github.com/data science live/real hyphen life hyphen SQL or SQL. Here, when you do this, then you go to PySpark. Can you hear me? Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Is clear?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So so I have two important things here, and one of them is the data, is and one of the simple SQL Spark IPython notebook. If you click here, this is a Python notebook. I'm not gonna run it because I'm not in my Mac. It's gonna be very hard for me to run this outside of my Mac. This notebook, I took it from a very good book that I recommend called Learning PySpark. It's almost the same notebook with a simple changes. With the simple changes, so you can run this very easily for you. So what I'm going to show you here is how to use Apache Spark. Exactly, I'm going to be using PySpark, that is the Python API for Spark, to run your SQL queries in a distributed fashion. If you don't know what Spark is, it's a very cool, fast engine to parallelize your code inside of a cluster. You can do machine learning with it, you can do deep learning with it, and you can do almost everything you can do with Python or R with Spark right now. And so I'm gonna be doing something very simple. The first thing you need to do when you start using Spark is to create a Spark session. This is Spark 2.3.1, if you're wondering. And the first thing I have to do is just start this Spark session, and then I'm gonna create my Spark session here because I'm just importing the class. And this part here is the point when you connect it to the cluster. When you read here Spark session.builder.get or create, this is like the path from Python to Java because Sparks runs on the JVM. And I'm gonna create the Spark context to create RDDs, and RDDs are the main data abstraction on Spark. So what's this you've seen here is a JSON. uh, I'm not gonna be connecting to a database. I'm gonna be doing something different. It's like, what if I'm gonna simulate a database, a very simple database, and this very simple database will have just 4 columns: the ID, the name, the age, in the eye color. And I'm gonna be creating this from a JSON file or a JSON object. Sorry, and this JSON here is just JavaScript. And in Spark, you have this handy tool that you can just use spark.read.json and then just pass a JSON. But this JSON has to be in an RDD. This is why I use sc.parallelize. I mean, you have to put, this is a regular JSON, but it's inside of this function here, it will create an RDD so Spark can understand what's this. So the next important part here, when I do this, I create in Spark a data frame. And this is exactly the same as Kristen just showed before, like the pandas data frame or the R data frame. But the difference here is that this data frame is distributed inside of cluster. Okay. Okay. So create temporary table. So this is important because I'm gonna be showing you 2 simple stuff, and one of them is how to use the Spark SQL as exactly as SQL you know from SQL, from like understanding the basics of the language. And I'm also be gonna showing you how to use Spark uh, functions to do SQL. And it's a little different because it's from methods and functions instead of like this long strings as Kristen showed you, but it's the same. Okay, so after I do this, I have a data frame, and with create or replace stem view, what I'm doing is like I'm creating like a simple table on a schema in a database. So the schema here is none, and I'm creating just a table to be able to run queries for that table. If I just click show, this is our data frame we have. It's a very simple data frame. And so if you want to do something like, this is a SQL statement. Just select asterisk from swimmers JSON. And this swimmers JSON, as you see here, is the name of the temporary view of the table here. So this here, this query is running on memory and is distributed on the cluster. So if this is a huge data set, it's okay. It doesn't matter because it will work. So I'm gonna be showing you something different right now, and this is what you will be doing normally on Spark. But if you're more comfortable with running just select statements or update statements without having to write spark.sql or whatever, you can use the package called SQL Magic. You can install this with pip install SQL Magic, and that's it. And with this package, you have a magic in Jupyter, and a magic in Jupyter is normally uh, just after these percentage symbols, and it's transforming the way the cell will behave. Okay, so what you need to do is just load the external doing the pip install, loading the external
Uh-oh, Fabio, I think we're losing you.
then okay.
Yep, Fabio. Yep. While Fabio's trying to get his audio
Okay, can you hear
back
me now?
up. Yeah, we just heard that.
Okay, awesome. So I think it will be better now. Okay, so can you all hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. So I think I can even start my video again. Okay. So, oh, okay. So I'm gonna be starting from here too again. So this magic here will allow you to run SQL statements inside of Jupyter without using this Spark.SQL. And this is awesome because this will also be running on a cluster distributed in memory. So this is very cool. So all you need to do is to load the magic, configure the connection name to Spark, and then just run your queries. This is the same as here. It's no difference. Okay. So I'm gonna pass through this here because this is related to Spark, not to SQL. And I'm gonna go to the section called querying with SQL. All right. So in here, I'm gonna be showing you like simple stuff you can do with Spark and SQL. But the important thing here is that you need to understand this statement here, because in the outside, this Spark.SQL is nothing. It's just a way to do it, or this magic here is nothing. This is just the way you do it. Okay, so this is the same as before, selecting everything from swimmers. Or if you want to count the number of rows you have, you can do select count one. This is a placeholder. This can be whatever you want, like a 2, 3, whatever. And this will count the number of rows you have. And we have 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so this is the same here. So something very cool with Spark is that if you understand SQL, then you can go to the next level. And if you feel more comfortable writing stuff in like methods or functions, you can do it in Spark. And it's the same SQL, but it's in a very in a simple different way. Like instead of using select ID and age from swimmers, you'll be using swimmers as a data frame, and the data frame will have the method select. This is something very simple, and if you know pandas, this is like is very similar to pandas. And you're selecting here the ID and the age, and then you're filtering where the age is equal to 22. So if you do it like this, if you think about it, this is the same as in SQL, but this filter here is only a, an alias for where in SQL. Okay, so this same query here, as you've seen here, you can do it like this. Okay, where you have spark.sql and select ID, comma age from swimmers where age is 22. This is the same as here. Or again, if you're more comfortable using something like this, you have to use read SQL magic and select ID, and also when after you do this cell here is actually a this cell here is just actually a SQL cell. So you can put now comments will have to be with 2 hyphens instead of the hashtag you use. And so again, if you know SQL, let's say we want the name and the eye color from people, where the eye color it starts with the letter B. For that, you can use in SQL this statement like, okay? And like will receive something inside of quotes telling that, okay, so I do want something that starts with B because I'm using quote B, and then when I use the percentage here, that means everything, I mean, it can have whatever it has after the B. So we know this is choosing stuff starting from B. And as you can see here, we have brown and blue. So the 2 colors for the people that start with that. I mean, this is the same if you want to use the read SQL here. Okay, so this is just, we have 3 ways of doing this in Spark. With Spark functions, with the Sparks.SQL, and with the read SQL magic. Okay, I'm not gonna go more onto details because the other stuff there, I mean, are just more complicated queries that you will be able to see when you go to the code. You should clone the repo, try from yourself, and in here I'll be using some flight data I got from Kaggle. So you can see here they're more complicated select statements, uh, and I'm showing you here how to do it with Spark and with SQL. I mean, you will be doing this in SQL. Remember, the good thing here about doing this way is this will scale in the cluster because this is distributed and it's on memory. Okay, so I'm gonna be just stopping. Okay. So any questions on the thing I just show you here? Um, okay, there's a question is what's the difference between spark.sql.collect and .show? So the difference in Spark with collect is that collect is dangerous because what it will do is that it will bring back everything you have in a data frame or an RDD into your driver. And that means your laptop or your workstation. And it will bring back a Python list normally. And if that Python list doesn't fit in memory, you will crash the kernel. So this is why we use show, because with show, we're only, this is similar to have in R or have in pandas. It's only the first rows. And it's not collecting everything into the driver. So you know it won't crash the, um, you won't crash the server. Uh, okay.
I've been answering a bunch of questions on the Q&A, so just make sure we don't answer the questions that I've already answered, but I have gone through and done like 12 of them.
All right. All right. So we have a big announcement right now, and then we're gonna just continue to maybe answering some of your questions.
All right. So I did want to take a second to say that this webinar is sponsored by the Uplevel Your Resume course over at Data Moves Me, and I created a special promo code for you guys. It's DS Live 10, and that'll get you $10 off the course. So I'm just going to put the information there in case you'd like to use it, and don't forget to use DS Live 10 for your discount. So back to you, Fabio.
Okay, so I think you only, okay, I think I send it to everyone. All right. So yeah, so Kristen code will be uploaded soon into the repo. And the good thing here about having a repo, if you want to practice Git, you can do it with us because this is an open source community. So if you have anything you want to add from the code I show you or from the code that Kristen will be uploading, just create an issue, create a pull request, or just add your own code. I mean, you can start adding here your examples. If you're a SQL expert or you're learning SQL, doesn't matter. Just if you want to share your code with more people so you have feedbacks and stuff, make sure to first follow the Data Science Live organization and Kristen and me and Randy's GitHub accounts, because we're going to be adding code there for each one of these webinars. And you can start also commenting on our code or creating issues. And maybe I missed something there that is not like I thought it was. So just let me know, and then we can learn together. And oh yeah, and this will be recorded, and this is I think you answered that. But for people that has that question, this is being recorded. And we're going, and if you go to datasciencelive.com, maybe in a few hours or tomorrow, you will be able to get this video if you want to share with a friend or your organization or want to see it again, whatever. Okay, so I think we have time, Kristen, to bring some people again here live
Oh,
to
sure.
answer their questions. So whoever who wants, so we have 2 hand raises here. Let me just go to the questions. Did you reply to the questions here we have?
Yeah, so I answered 12 questions, so you can see
Okay,
which
great.
ones.
Okay, so okay, I'm gonna be promoting someone who has a question about SQL or something related. So we have here someone called Amar Reddy. Amar, can you please raise your hand? Amar Reddy. Are you still here? Okay, so we have a raised hand, a hand raised by Condor. I'm gonna allow you to talk. Hey Condor, are you here?
Hey, you're on mute.
Condor. Right, I think he's not here.
Peter F says, let's go to the next.
Yeah, let's go to the next one. Okay, sorry. Okay, whoever wants to talk, just raise your hand right now.
Oh, it's nice.
We have,
Answer my question in the Q&A.
okay, we have Paul Gurinian. Hey Paul, can you hear us?
Hello.
How are you, Paul?
Hey, how's it going?
Great.
Well, I just want to touch on the opposite of SQL, which I guess would be the NoSQL space. Mainly, Mongo is on my radar, and I guess Maria. Can you quickly give us the pros and cons of each one? The Mongo people say that their way is it non-relational, I guess, whatever it is, or like document driven or something like that. I know the syntax is a lot different than what I've seen with like when I was working with Postgres, for instance. So can you just talk about that?
Yeah, so I think I can start here. And one thing that is important right now, that NoSQL does not mean like the opposite of SQL. It means not only SQL. And that's important because NoSQL doesn't mean that you're not using SQL at all or using something similar to SQL. And if you go to some of the NoSQL databases, you're going to be doing something very similar to SQL. So in cons and pros, I can tell you, like, if you are already, I mean, if you're doing data science, or if you want to join data science, you need to know SQL. I mean, it's much more likely that you will be using a relational database inside of your company than a relational database. So you need to know SQL to start in your data science career. On the other hand, there are a lot of applications like real-time applications, or like you're reading tweets from a source, something like that, that you don't need for that a database like in your standard basis. So for those kind of applications, it's better to have a NoSQL database because it's faster to write and read stuff. And on the other hand, if you're using like a distributed system, you will be using something like HDFS, and you will be using something like HBase or Cassandra or Maria, and they're very cool because they're very easy. They're easy ways to access distributed content inside of a database that is not relational. So I can tell you that my experience with NoSQL is not that extensive, but it's a very it's not that hard to understand. It has a very different like syntax in some parts as you will be using in SQL, but I will not stress that much about NoSQL right now. I think you should be learning SQL and like pandas and Spark, and all of these libraries are much more useful right now than Mongo for data science.
Yeah, I'll stick with Postgres.
Yep, Postgres is a very cool like system for doing SQL. I mean, I like it. I learned with Postgres. So okay, Paul. So thank you very much for your question.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, we have time for one more question. One more question. Okay, we have 4 people here. You choose one.
Oh, I don't even know how to see where people are hand raising.
Okay, I'm gonna choose someone here randomly. Okay.
Hi, you're on mute.
Hi, Sabyashi.
Hi, can you listen to me?
Yes,
Yeah,
we can hear
we can
you.
listen. We can hear you.
Okay, great. So right now I am doing data science using Python as my main programming language, and I use Pandas as my database management tool. And I have been increasingly being told that I should be looking at SQL or an SQL-like framework. And my question to you guys are that some of you are also probably using Jupyter notebooks as your main, like weapon. So what is the best technology for a newcomer to like pick up as an SQL tool which you can link with your Jupyter notebooks and work through it? So and your experience also to slowly like start with one, then kind of go to other technologies, because of course like people talk about so many different options which are possible to choose from. So let me hear from you experts, what is your opinion about it?
So are you currently working at a company that has a database that you need to access?
I am actually working as a data science researcher at the University of Toronto, working with sequencing data, but I am also currently have a startup which is doing data science consulting for small scale and non-profit organizations who cannot afford to go to big consulting agencies for doing their data analysis or analytics.
Okay. Because from a learning SQL standpoint, it really doesn't matter which flavor you learn first, because they're all very similar, and
Yes.
you can just Google any differences in syntax, and it shouldn't trip you up too much.
Yes.
I know SQLite is open source. I'm not sure what other, because obviously MySQL is going to be expensive, or Netezza, which we have, which is the IBM implementation, is again going to be expensive. But I don't, find a platform that's going to work for you, and then learn a variant of SQL, and it shouldn't matter too much which one you learn, because to move to a different variant of SQL is not going to be too difficult.
I see. And a follow-up question is, what is a good resource, for example, to kind of work through a data set where you can see how you are kind of integrating a Python notebook with your SQL framework, and going back and forth with the data tables, doing the analytics? Is there some resource where it's kind of focuses on this way of learning between a notebook and a SQL framework?
I mean, I'm using something that was for Python and notebooks,
Yes.
or R and notebooks. It's called Jupytext. I
Jupytex.
covered, I think it's called Jupytext or Jupyter Text. I covered that in my last newsletter. I think you can check that out because it's a very cool way to update code in an IDE, and
Yes.
that it will upgrade and upload to into your notebook. So I think
Okay.
that's a way of using both because I'm using that right now with PyCharm and Jupyter because I have some big classes and stuff that I don't want to be creating in Jupyter. So I change them on PyCharm and then I go back to Jupyter with all that is updated and stuff. So maybe that will work for you.
Thanks a lot. That both of them were great advices. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we have a lot of questions in the Q&A. Kristen tried her best to answer most of them. I think what we're gonna do maybe is to have a open Q&A session for next time about SQL. Before going into a new topic, what do you think about that, Kristen? Because we have a lot of questions here where we did not answer.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, because I mean we have a lot of stuff here that we didn't cover, and it's 1 hour we have to do this. So maybe wait for the next session that it will be maybe a Q&A about this session or anything you want to ask about like a sequel. So save your question, copy and paste it, and because we will try to answer your questions next time. And and remember, I mean, we're open to hear your suggestions. I know that you want to learn more different stuff, so and we're gonna follow the poll we sent you back like 2 weeks or 1 week ago. But if you have anything else, you can just follow us on our site. Make sure to go into a website because you have there the past webinars. This will be here, there to share with your friends, and just thank you for being here. I mean, this is a very exciting place for us to talk to you about this.
Yeah,
So,
thank you
Kristen,
so
thank
much,
you.
guys.
Yeah, so we miss Randy here. I hope he's here for the next session. Um, and okay, so just remember that this will be recorded. It's on our website, and connect through LinkedIn to us to talk about it. Thank you very much, and see you soon.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.